This hour,
we also know that there have been infringements on free speech.
We've had free speech for a very, very long time in the United Kingdom, and it will last for a very, very long time.
what price freedom? Turns out the Trump administration are keen to tie tariffs to freedom of speech in Britain. The self-appointed freedom fighters in the White House now using economic warfare, or something close to it, to strong-arm British lawmakers to... what? I mean... take their responsibility to freedom of expression seriously? I don't know. The US State Department issued an extraordinary statement saying that it was, quote, concerned about freedom of expression in the United Kingdom in relation to the case of an anti-abortion campaigner. It said it was monitoring the case of Livia Tossici-Bolt, who is being prosecuted for holding a sign near a Bournemouth abortion clinic reading, "Here to talk if you want." She's on trial at Poole Magistrates Court last month, accused of breaching the Public Spaces Protection Order on 2 days in March last year, 2 years ago actually, March 2023. Doesn't time fly? With the verdict set to be given later on this week. She has said in a statement that peaceful expression is a fundamental right. No one should be criminalised for harmless offers to converse. She added, "It is tragic to see that the increase of censorship in this country has made the US feel it has to remind us of our shared values and basic civil liberties." The law says this. The law on buffer zones as abortion clinics says this. It is an offence for someone to, within this area, do anything that intentionally or recklessly influences someone's decision to use abortion services, obstructs them, or causes harassment, alarm or distress to someone using or working at the premises. Now, I've never been to an abortion clinic. I've obviously never needed to go to an abortion clinic myself, so I don't know what it might do to you to see someone holding up a sign as you walk into the abortion clinic. Very difficult decision that you may have made, or not, doesn't matter really, but holding up a sign saying, "Here to talk if you want," as you head in to make this decision about your own body, which, by the way, I hope it goes without saying, but by the way, I think it is absolutely your right and should be your right to make that decision. But we have your right to make that decision and this lady's right to freedom of expression, and the two seem now to be in some conflict, certainly according to the Americans. Let's put to one side for a bit the apparent infringements on rights to freedom of expression in America that are being clamped down by the Trump administration, as we heard from Simon on American Week last week. Let's put that to one side for a moment. If you support the right to abortion, as I do, it's obviously a bit of a weird thing to me to go and stand in the neighbourhood of an abortion clinic and aggressively or otherwise try and exert influence over those people walking in. But is this type of influencing so aggressive or so horrible as to need to be made illegal? Is the Trump administration, to your mind, exporting a kind of American culture war, certainly an American moral war or religious crusade? Are they exporting it into Britain and possibly charging you a pretty penny through tariffs for the privilege? Or do they have a point? Do they have a point of saying, actually, the rights of your decision to have an abortion that are butting up against the rights of someone's ability to express their view about that decision, actually there is too much weight placed on them not having to make that freedom of expression? Is that fair call to make, even if it's coming from the Trump administration, even if you hate Donald Trump, which you're entitled to do? Do you feel like this is a good thing for the law to prosecute? That someone do anything that is intentionally or recklessly influencing someone's decision to use abortion services? 0345 6060 973. Very keen to speak to you if you've used one of these services. Obviously, we can anonymise you if so be. Claire McCullough is founder of the Good Counsel Network, who run vigils outside abortion centres. Thanks for coming on, Claire. You are seeking to influence someone's decision to use abortion services, aren't you?
I'm seeking to offer alternatives to women outside abortion centres.
So, yes.
Well, some women don't really want to have an abortion, so I'm not seeking to influence their decisions so much as seeking to give them a way out of a situation they don't feel they have any other options in.
How do you know that they don't want an abortion?
Because I've spoken to thousands of them in the last 28 years, and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them have accepted our help and kept their baby.
And this is outside of an abortion clinic where these women have spoken to you?
Yes.
And they have
have
turned
safety
around.
vigils.
Yeah, they have turned around as a result of speaking to you.
They've turned around, but as I say, many of them are not 100% committed
Sure.
or anything like it to an abortion, but feel that they have no other option.
So you are looking to influence someone's decision?
Well, if you say that you're decided when you're going in to have an abortion because you feel you've got no other choice, then so be it.
I'm not looking to make a point for the sake of argument here, Claire. It is just a fact that you go outside abortion clinics to try and change people's minds or to try and influence people's minds, whether or not they're 100% either way as they walk in.
Well, we're there to offer help, and some of them will change their minds, and some of them already don't want to have an abortion. So yes, I guess that you can say that we are there to offer help to women and hope that some will change their minds as well, yes.
And you are doing that intentionally. Otherwise, you wouldn't bother doing it, presumably.
Yes.
Do you think you should be prosecuted for that?
No, I don't think we should be prosecuted for that. Of course, I don't think we should be prosecuted for that. And I think the fact that we have never had anyone arrested or charged with anything or even cautioned before this law came in is evidence that we should not be charged with doing anything wrong or prohibited from doing anything.
I'm clearly not the best person to make this argument, Claire, never having needed to use an abortion clinic. But if I am a young woman in some distress about what to do in that situation, and I've decided, right, I'm going to have an abortion, the last thing I would want is someone playing on my emotions at that moment and trying to sway me one way or the other for whatever reason. Can you see why some protection might be needed for those women?
Can you see why, if somebody's homeless and we're offering them a place to live, we're not playing on their emotions, but we're offering them a lifeline in a situation where they don't actually really want an abortion, but find it's the only option they've got?
So for someone else who's walking in there, who's not in that position, who's 100% certain, for whom it is distressing to have you outside saying don't have an abortion, they need protecting from you, don't they?
I think that somebody standing there with a leaflet saying, pregnant, worried, help if you want it, is not offending anyone, actually, or here to talk if you want, as Livia's poster said. I just don't see how that is distressing to anybody. Abortion itself is very distressing, I'll agree with you there, but I don't see how an offer of help is distressing, and especially when the people who are offering it are completely peacekeeping people who've never been in any way charged with anything prior to this law coming in.
Do you think then that the American administration has a point here?
I do. I think, unfortunately, on this issue, Britain has made itself a bit of a laughing stock. It's not just on the abortion issue that there have been loads of issues about free speech lately, where the law seems to be massively overstepping the mark. But in this case, Livia standing there with here to talk if you want is offensive to people because they're making a load of assumptions about who Livia is and what she's going to do. There's actually nothing in her poster that's offensive to anybody.
I take it you know her, do you? You know her personally?
I do know her, yeah.
The problem is that offence is entirely subjective. So when you say there is nothing in her poster that can cause offence to someone, you don't know that because someone might take offence to it for whatever reason.
Okay, so can you give me one good reason why someone would take offence to here to talk if you want?
No idea. I wouldn't, but then I'm not in the position of needing to have an abortion. Someone might, and it seems that the law is on their side in protecting them from that alarm or distress.
It doesn't even mention abortion. She's willing to talk to people about
Claire, I know.
whether their
I know.
shoes are tight.
Yeah, absolutely. I know what the words mean, but this is the difficulty, isn't it? In saying it's not going to offend anyone, you can't know that. But similarly, people can't always be protected. You don't have a right not to be offended.
Yes, you don't have a right not to be offended. And I do think that in these cases, people have taken as much care as possible not to be in any way offensive. I mean, I can hold up a poster that says the grass is green and you might be offended by it, but I can't possibly foresee that. And Livia couldn't possibly foresee offence being caused by here to talk if you want.
It would be deeply and grotesquely offensive, though, to try and influence people in different ways by, and I think you see it mainly in the United States, but people with red paint on their hands or, blooded T-shirts or whatever. That's completely inappropriate, would you not think?
That's completely inappropriate, but this is kind of whataboutery, isn't it? Because nobody in England's doing that.
At all?
That's why we've had to have such an extreme law brought in. We have to have a law brought in saying you can't pray in your head because they can't find anything else to actually accuse us of.
Very interesting. Good to talk to you. Thank you for coming on. Claire McCullough, founder of the Good Counsel Network, who run vigils outside abortion centres. Obviously, I'm not in a great place to talk about abortions, never having had one, never having needed one. If you have used one of these places, if you've needed to go through that process, you are the people that I would most like to speak to about this law. Now, I think it's reasonable to say, well, the Americans probably need to look at their own problems with free speech right now, particularly via the Trump administration. That being said, you don't have a right not to be offended. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about a woman with a sign that says, here to talk if you want, outside a place where people are going to have an abortion. Very big decision, very complicated decision, very emotional decision, very difficult decision. Should that be a prosecutable offence? I struggle to see it. I do. The law is so woolly here.